Hello, my name is Joseph Rory, and I'm with the Baron C. Matt School of Common Law. We're doing parts on this should be part 3 of the politics of God, and today it's going to be on taxation. Taxation is the law of God, is simply 10%. This across the board figure is fair to all persons because no one person has to bear taxes that he has no means to pay. On the other hand, the richer a person is comes just as fair because the same 10% applies to him. There is no other form of taxes found in the Bible. No property taxes, sales taxes, impact taxes, or any of these forms that give unfairness to the monetary abilities of the taxed citizens. A single and across-the-board tax with no other taxes added would be the politics of God. That way, if a citizen took his 90% earnings and improved his property and his possessions, then he would not be penalized for it. He would be able to advance his pursuit of happiness, for instance. But not all taxes are lawful. If a tax exceeds the purpose, for instance, extracting taxes for the purpose of aiding and securing rights for non-citizens, sending foreign money over, apparently they don't have a right to tax for some people out there. It's an illegal tax. You might want to take note of that the United States, the preamble plainly states, for the United States. That's what this Constitution is for the United States, not the other parts of the world, them on Mars. So we want to cover a misconception about this so-called obey the law of lands that seems to be quoted, and in some cases people believe it's actually in the Bible. There is no quote that says obey the laws of the land. That does not exist. What does exist is the reference that I just gave you, and of course the fact that we do know that when Jesus was being asked about a tax, they wanted to see if he was going to pay the tax. He didn't pay the tax. He gave a good explanation to Peter and for them to ask themselves about whether the tax should be paid or not. And if your children are free, then you're paying taxes. If you're not free, then you pay the taxes. If you are free, then no. Then Christ asked, well, are the children free? Pretty much indicating that if you're free, you don't need to be paying that tax. But if you're under this government, then maybe there's a tax here, and of course there would be a proper tax. But nonetheless, he made it clear that he wasn't paying it, so he just sent Peter out to go get it out of a fish's mouth. So that's where it came from. He didn't turn to Judas and say, "Oh, Judas, you got the bag. Let's see how much we got. Okay, give them their tax." No, that was closer, more practical if that's what he meant. So he really wasn't, into that. Render to Caesar deal. This gets old. The Bible also does not ever say that. It does not say render to Caesar. There's nowhere in the Bible you will find that. Render to Caesar, render to Caesar, render to Caesar. The Bible does say render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's. Now you've got a quote here. You've got the whole quote. Render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's. Well, now that's a big change up from what the short version of just render to Caesar, as if there's a period there. You're to render to Caesar the things which are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God's. Better be given what God wants out of you. And, of course, Caesar, only the things that's his. God don't want what's Caesar's. He don't want to take it away from him. And, of course, under the circumstances, he was under the pressure because they was trying to trap him again. And would he say something against Caesar? Because we need something against him. So he handled it real well. He made it clear. He made it pretty plain when he said, "Render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's." Well, that left the door open for them. Oh, well, I guess if he's supposed to get a tax, and I guess he gets one. Well, you know, maybe that was what he did. But we do know this. You're only to render what is his, not what is yours. That is what belongs to God. So let's get that scripture out of the way. We need to start quoting that completely. Render to Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God's. Okay? All right. So the Caesar thing has been I guess, one of the handicaps of the churches. I've heard it in the churches I've been in talk about how you're supposed to render to Caesar. And that's not what it says. Christians must never be known to resist a proper taxation. So it is with the Christian the duty to know what is proper and what is not. 3 things that make a proper tax and the rules within is first the income alone. The 10% was upon what you made, period, in the story. Now this is biblically speaking. We established a little bit more in the Constitution, and more than likely it's probably not too far off of what we're trying to do here. But but here's the biblical plan. Excuse me there. The income alone, nothing else. The tax must be based on the income alone, not his property, his watch, cars, houses, or animals, etc. The citizen would owe nothing more than 10%. The tax must only be based upon the income and nothing in the way of disturbing it. Third, the government must live within the range of the people. You know, the government's just going to have to live with what you got and what you're producing, and that's it. I mean, they've already out-budgeted everybody. They've got this tax up to 50% just about by the time you add up all the taxes coming at you. And our forefathers rebelled at 14%. So think about it. Are we the same Americans? Do we have that same blood strength? And that's something to think about. So taxation, 10%. Property rights. The land belongs to God. We find that once God has given land to his people, that the people have the right to keep it. In Leviticus 25:23, God commanded that the land shall not be sold forever. That was for the reason that the sons and daughters will have an inheritance. It is important to God that the families be ordained, maintain a continual inheritance for their children. We can review our history and see that we have failed to do this. What has happened to our present system is now a probate matter where the courts get involved in settling what family members get, such as what families get nothing in the process of the interference of the courts. The courts get a large amount of the value. This is why families should have a biblical method to declare the land over their children. You know, we teach that you shouldn't have a will, and you should not get your property even tied up in these courts by having a will. You know, if you really know that your children is going to have this property, go ahead and sell it to them now, while you're alive. Sell it properly to them. You don't need a will for a bunch of lawyers and courts to make a bunch of money on this changeover. You do it now. And what you do with your sale is you make a stipulation that you have full rights to that property so long as you live. That way they can't ever sell it out from under you. They can't tell you what to do on your property. And you have a sale with that stipulation in it, and you pretty much still get to operate it as if you own it. So there you are. The children get it, and they don't have to have the courts making $1 million off of it when they get a hold of it. If you just do it the way God said to do it, you'll be okay. All right, overcrowded prisons. That's another problem in this country and some of our politics and why we've got the prisons that we have. There would be no overcrowded prisons if the laws of God were practiced. The only jail sentence for crimes in the Bible is in the accidental killing of another human being. Now this came from, and this is it, the Bible for human beings, Moses never established a prison system. It was never established. The closest we have is the city of refuge. They had cities of refuges that if you had a problem that you might have inadvertently killed somebody, you actually went there for a time. It was somewhat a prison in one sense, but it was really there for your safety to save and keep you safe from the pursuer, because like you accidentally kill somebody, the brother's coming, the mama's coming, the cousin's coming, but you have to go and be heard by the high priest there of the circumstances, and they will protect you as long as you're in those cities. That is the only imprisonment system that we have in the Bible, so we might ought to consider whether we should even have a prison system, because there's many other ways, like for instance murder and rape and all that was death. All the big crimes is death. The lesser, bigger crimes has their way of being dealt with as well. Stealing, for instance, you steal someone's van, then you go to court and you owe him 4 vans, because that's the way it was in the Bible, is that you owe 4 vans back, or 4 sheep back. Now, that's not a bad system, because the way it's set up now, someone knocks me upside the head, takes $200, and flees, goes down the street, and I get up and I call the police, and I say I just got hit in the head by a guy that was wearing a blue boggin, and he had a scar on his face that looked like a shape of an owl or something, and whatever it is, I describe him, and 2 days later they find him, and guess what, he spent my $200, but they bring him to court, and they find him $2,000, $1,500, and put him in jail for 30 days. Now, where did I come out? I never got my money back. They get money, and then when they put him in prison, now we got to pay extra taxes to take care of him every day for 30 days, which is up to quite a bit of money per day. I think I've even read the statistics one time what it takes to house a prisoner per day. But I guarantee you're getting paid, you're having to overpay just because this guy, Knucklebutt, took $200 off me, and I'm willing to even call the police. Well, if it was under the laws of God, we would simply put him in court, yes, and we would make him pay me back $800. You see, that's how that would work. And then there would be punishments, you say like the 40 lashes, for instance. That was one of the punishments they had is 40 lashes, 40 stripes. And so maybe that's where we should go. Overcrowded prisons should be not even with us, so we won't have them. Now, as far as the judges them are concerned, you know, when I'm having to be brought to court, the taxes that's already got them there takes care of that. They don't need to find more money. They got court fees and all this that they want to add now, because what, they're a business. Apparently, they're not really there by your taxes. There's a court fee to be there. Well, when did that begin? Well, we could run that down one day. But nonetheless, you know, they're supposed to be paid for already there, and then when I'm needing to have a redress, they're already paid. They just need to do their job. We should also say here that God has held angels. Now, in the spiritual world, there is some imprisonment. If you recall, we'll just read the scripture here. In Jude 6, it says we should, certain violations of fallen angels are held in chains of darkness. In Jude 6, it compared to the angels that are known to roam the earth. Now, we know that when Lucifer took the 2/3 of the angels and resisted God and rebelled, and they're not in prison. They're getting to go to and fro. If you compare that with Job, Job 2:1 and 2, you can see that even Satan is running around. He's not in prison. he's coming and going as he wants. He even enters heaven when he wants to, and stands before the sons of God and makes his arguments, just like anybody else out there. The time is coming that goes away when, during the book of Revelation, you'll see that's coming in the future. But there was a certain sect of angels that was held in darkness under chains of darkness. These were those that fornicated with the women of the earth, found in Jude, and of course in Genesis chapter 6. And so these got chained up, so they're in prison. So in the spiritual world, you're in prison. Hell is also considered a prison, and it's filled with fire and brimstone. So it's not going to just be a place of confinement. It will also be burning the hell out of you. So we do have the some prisons here. Let's just put it that way. Now, war waging. That's another politics of ours. We have wars here and there, and we really never declare it. We just go and have them. We don't even have reasons half the time, but not rightful reasons. There may be a political reason that they won't do it. War raging is acceptable in defense only. No laws permit the aggression upon any other country unless threats or attacks are carried out by the opposing factions. God condemned Amalek for being the aggressor in Israel's first war coming out of Egypt, but did not condemn Israel for defending herself from him. Many battles were fought by Israel, with God as their helper. Jesus taught that the aggressor, one that draws the sword, would die by the sword, because someone will sooner or later defend themselves. The right to bear arms. The Bible teaches to be armed for both your own safety and for being prepared for battle. Israel was told to arm some of yourselves for the war against Midian. They were told to be armed when they passed over Jordan and be armed among their brethren. See Numbers 32, 17, 32. 32, 17 through 32. And Joshua 1:14, Joshua 4:12, Joshua 6, 7. Israelite men were told to arm themselves. This self-arming could only be done if they had arms to do so. Otherwise, they would have to be issued arms from the governing body. This shows that the people carried weapons of war on a daily basis. Now, you know, one time that Jesus did disarm the disciples, because it's clear that he never disarmed them, except for one trip, one mission. He said, don't take your sword or your scrip or shoes. You don't need it. I'll take care of you this way. When the time comes, everything will work out, so you don't even need all that. Don't do it. When Jesus rose from the dead, though, he asked them about their swords, and they says, we got some. He says, well, if you don't, sell your garments and get one. So he stresses the importance of selling your garments. If you don't have a sword, you better have one. You better be armed. Now, he was with them then on that mission. He's on his way to be in heaven, and so he says be armed. You arm yourself. If you're going to follow the Bible, be armed. And also Jesus taught, when a strong man armed keepeth his palace, his goods are in peace. So there is your politics for the day. Tomorrow we will, when I say tomorrow, next video, we will cover interracial marriage. That's going to be a lengthy one, so it'll probably just be the one by itself as a part 4. So we're looking at what God would have to have in your government and what he would expect the government to be for or against. And since you are a Christian government, America is still a Christian government. They just don't know how to act like it, and the people just don't know how to show up and force these Christians to take office. And the Christians then know to tell the other religions, just get going. You know, rebuke them like you're supposed to. So here we have the politics of God. We've covered, you know, the freedom of religion, the imprisonment, the capital punishment, the abortion, taxation. So the next video will cover interracial marriage. Until Shalom come.